Have you ever heard voices in your head, or seen things that aren't actually there, or felt that you were dreaming while awake? If so, then you might have schizophrenia. Hello, my name is Arthur Perez. I will be educating you on a mental disorder known as schizophrenia. I will discuss the symptoms, causes, and treatment for this disorder. I will also discuss the life of a schizophrenic and show you the struggles of their day-to-day lives. But before I get in depth to this disorder, I will tell you why I chose this as my topic. The reason I chose this topic is because I have great interest in the way the mind of a schizophrenic works. The reason being is that during high school I personally experimented with lysergic acid diethylamide, also known as LSD, or commonly referred as acid. Acid is a psychedelic drug that is known for its psychological effects. These effects are closely similar to the symptoms that a schizophrenic would experience, like delusions, paranoia, hallucinations, and just a complete altered perception of reality. For me, experiencing these effects were very interesting and I wanted to learn more. Today, schizophrenia affects 1% of the population. It's one of the most rarest and least understood disorders in the world. This disorder most commonly affects people from the ages 18 to 30, but in many cases, people are born with the disorder. It's important to know that schizophrenia affects all its victims in different levels. Some victims don't even experience delusions or hallucinations until later in their lives. So you could have schizophrenia and not even know it. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, the symptoms of schizophrenia fall into three categories: positive, negative, and cognitive. Positive symptoms are psychotic behaviors not generally seen in healthy people. People with positive symptoms may lose touch with some aspects of reality. Symptoms include hallucinations, delusions, thought disorders like unusual or dysfunctional ways of thinking, and movement disorders like agitated body movements. Delusions are false beliefs that are not based in reality. For example, you think that you are being harmed or harassed when you're really not, or that certain gestures or comments are directed at you. Or in more extreme cases, they believe that some catastrophe is going to happen, like the world ending. Delusions occur in most cases of schizophrenia, and they are normally the most intense. The other most common and intense symptom of schizophrenia is hallucinations. Hallucinations are all auditory and visual and sometimes can be sensational. The difference between hallucinations and delusions are that delusions are feelings and beliefs, while hallucinations are all in the senses. One of the most common hallucinations that most victims of schizophrenia experience is hearing voices in their head. It is believed that the voices that the patients hear is just the subconscious speaking to them, necessarily. And usually the subconscious thoughts that these patients have are negative, like paranoia and anxiety, and can lead to very bad psychotic episodes. Another symptom is disorganized thinking. This results in disorganized speech, which means the patient's ability to speak is greatly impaired, which means the patient will assemble words that are completely meaningless. For example, these are some phrases that actual patients have said before. The sheep languish, blue trains suffer. Dogs sleep, chicken pencil trees. Email purple, orange swims blackened. As you can see, these phrases are completely senseless and have no meaning at all. These are all positive symptoms. Just as a reminder, positive symptoms doesn't mean that they are good. It just means that people with these symptoms lose touch with aspects of reality. Negative symptoms, on the other hand, are much less intense and are associated with disruptions to normal emotions and behaviors. These symptoms include reduced feelings of pleasure in everyday life, difficulty beginning and sustaining activities, and reduced speaking. And now for cognitive symptoms, They are much more subtle and less severe than the other ones mentioned, as they only impact the patient's memory and their aspects of thinking. Now that I've told you the symptoms of schizophrenia, I will tell you the causes. Psychologists still have a hard time understanding what truly causes schizophrenia. Scientists believe that many different genes may increase the risk of schizophrenia, but that no single gene causes the disorder by itself. Scientists also believe that exposure to viruses, malnutrition before birth, problems during birth, and psychosocial factors correlates with schizophrenia. But for the most part, no one truly understands what causes this disorder. Schizophrenia is considered uncurable, so the treatment is focused on maintaining the symptoms. And they do this by giving the patient antipsychotic medicine. The only problem is many patients respond differently to many different types of antipsychotic medicine. So it takes a while for the patient to find the right medicine for him. After the patient's symptoms are maintained, they then begin to start treatment outside of medicine, like therapy and group support and other things that would help them maintain their symptoms. Now I will be sharing with you real past experiences of real patients. These are all either psychotic episodes of hallucinations or delusions. The following reports of the psychotic episodes were published in an article titled My Life with Schizophrenia by Ellen Sachs, published in Cable News Network by CNN. The writer, Ellen Sachs, has chronic schizophrenia, and she talks about many of her delusions and hallucinations throughout the article. She mentions that she has the delusion that she killed hundreds of thousands of people using her thoughts. Besides the fact that she lives with schizophrenia, she's still able to maintain a comfortable life and be a law scholar and writer. Although this is true in her case, for many other patients with schizophrenia, life is much more harder. For example, a patient named Cecilia McGo talks about her harsh hallucinations in a TED Talk named I Am Not a Monster. She reports to have repetitive hallucination of a clown that closely resembles to Stephen King's It. She mentions that she clearly sees the clown, and sometimes the clown points at her and laughs, and even attacks her by biting her. Cecilia continues by saying that sometimes she hallucinates spiders. These hallucinations of the spiders are extremely realistic, so Cecilia has a hard time telling the difference between these hallucinations and reality. But at times, she has hallucinations that are easily distinguishable from reality. One of these hallucinations is a giant spider. She continues by describing the spider. She describes the spider as being extremely large, like the size of a human, and having black leathery skin, and having a large yellow back. She then says that the spider never communicates to her verbally. But when it moved its legs, the creaking of the legs sounded like the laughter of young children. Even though she knew the spider was just a hallucination, she says that she was still greatly disturbed by the hallucination. I hope now you have a better understanding of the disorder schizophrenia and the toll that it has on people's lives. I hope that you look out for the symptoms in yourself as you are in the age when it's most commonly diagnosed. And also look out for your loved ones for any symptoms. Or if you know someone that has schizophrenia, here are some tips that you can use to be more supportive. First, get them treatment and encourage them to stay in treatment. Remember that their beliefs or hallucinations seem very real to them. Tell them that you acknowledge that everyone has the right to see things their own way. Be respectful, supportive, and kind without tolerating dangerous or inappropriate behavior. Check to see if there are any support groups in your area, as that will be very beneficial for their treatment. As I mentioned before, you are in the age where the symptoms of schizophrenia start to develop. So start looking out and make sure the things that are in your life are actually real. Thank you for listening.